Introduction.
Look, everyone's going to tell you that friendship is beautiful, that connections matter, that you need people in your life. But what if everything you've been taught about relationships is keeping you weak? What if the very concept of friendship, as most people understand it, is actually holding you back from achieving true power and success? Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War over 2,500 years ago, and his principles have been studied by military leaders, business moguls, and politicians throughout history. Today, we're going to explore 5 specific chapters from this ancient masterpiece and understand why the most successful people in the modern world have learned to treat relationships as strategic alliances rather than emotional attachments. Before we dive deep into this controversial topic, let me make something clear. This isn't about being cruel or heartless. This is about understanding the difference between strategic relationships and emotional dependency. The wealthy and powerful understand this distinction, and it's one of the key reasons they stay on top while others remain at the bottom. Jeff Bezos didn't build Amazon by being everyone's friend. Elon Musk didn't revolutionize multiple industries by prioritizing feelings over results. Steve Jobs wasn't known for his warm friendships, but he changed the world. These individuals understood something fundamental about human nature and power dynamics that most people refuse to acknowledge.
Chapter 1: Laying Plans, the Foundation of Strategic Thinking.
Sun Tzu begins The Art of War with the concept of laying plans, emphasizing that all warfare is based on deception and that the supreme excellence is to subdue the enemy without fighting. When we apply this to modern relationships, we discover something profound about how successful people approach their social circles. Traditional friendship operates on emotional reciprocity. You help someone because you like them, you trust them because they're nice to you, and you invest time and energy based on feelings. But Sun Tzu teaches us that this approach is fundamentally flawed when it comes to achieving significant goals. Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest individuals in history, exemplifies this principle perfectly. When you study his relationships, you'll notice that every significant connection in his life serves a strategic purpose. His friendship with Charlie Munger wasn't built on shared hobbies or emotional bonding. It was built on mutual respect for each other's analytical abilities and complementary skills in investment analysis. Buffett doesn't maintain relationships with people who drain his energy or distract him from his goals. He's famously selective about who gets access to his time, understanding that time is his most valuable asset. When he chooses to spend time with someone, it's because that person either helps him think more clearly about investments, provides valuable information, or contributes to his overall mission. This isn't coldness, it's strategic thinking. Buffett has laid his plans carefully, understanding that every relationship should serve his greater purpose. He doesn't pretend to be everyone's friend, and he doesn't waste time on social obligations that don't align with his objectives. Consider how different this is from the average person's approach to friendship. Most people collect friends like trophies, maintaining relationships out of habit, guilt, or social pressure. They spend countless hours listening to complaints, attending events they don't enjoy, and investing emotional energy in people who will never contribute to their success. The principle of laying plans teaches us that every relationship should be evaluated based on its strategic value. This doesn't mean using people callously, but rather being intentional about who you allow into your inner circle and how you allocate your most precious resources: time, attention, and emotional energy. Larry Ellison, the founder of Oracle, demonstrates this principle in his approach to business relationships. He's known for being ruthless in cutting ties with people who no longer serve his strategic interests. When Oracle faced competition, Ellison didn't hesitate to end relationships with partners who were holding the company back, even if those relationships had been personally profitable or comfortable. This strategic approach to relationships extends beyond business. Ellison's personal relationships are also carefully curated. He surrounds himself with people who challenge him intellectually, share his ambitions, or provide unique perspectives that help him grow. He doesn't maintain friendships based on nostalgia or emotional attachment alone. The laying plans principle also involves understanding your own strengths and weaknesses clearly. Sun Tzu emphasizes knowing yourself as much as knowing your enemy. In relationship terms, this means understanding what you need from others and what you can offer in return. It means being honest about your goals and choosing relationships that support those goals rather than undermine them. Mark Cuban provides another excellent example of this principle in action. Cuban is known for his direct communication style and his unwillingness to sugarcoat uncomfortable truths. He's built his wealth and influence by surrounding himself with people who can handle direct feedback and contribute meaningfully to his various enterprises. Cuban doesn't maintain friendships with people who are easily offended or who expect constant emotional validation. He understands that his energy is better spent on relationships that challenge him and help him grow. This approach might seem harsh to some, but it's precisely this kind of strategic thinking that has allowed him to succeed in multiple industries. The modern world rewards those who can think strategically about relationships. Social media has created an illusion that quantity of connections matters more than quality, but the truly successful understand that a few strategic relationships are worth more than hundreds of casual friendships. When you begin to apply the laying plans principle to your own life, you'll start to see relationships differently. You'll stop feeling guilty about ending friendships that don't serve your growth. You'll become more selective about who gets access to your time and energy. You'll start building relationships that actually contribute to your success rather than drain your resources. This shift in perspective is uncomfortable at first because it challenges everything we've been taught about friendship and loyalty. But remember, the goal isn't to become a sociopath, it's to become strategic. The most successful people understand that their relationships should support their mission, not distract from it.
Chapter 2. Waging War. The Economics of Relationship Investment.
Sun Tzu's second principle focuses on the economics of warfare, emphasizing that prolonged conflict drains resources and that victory should be achieved as quickly and efficiently as possible. When applied to relationships, this principle reveals why emotional friendships often become liabilities rather than assets. Traditional friendship operates on the assumption that relationships should be maintained regardless of their cost. People invest years of their lives in friendships that provide no return, drain their energy, and distract them from their goals. Sun Tzu would call this poor resource management. Oprah Winfrey exemplifies the strategic application of this principle. Throughout her career, Winfrey has been deliberate about ending relationships that no longer serve her growth or mission. She's walked away from business partnerships, friendships, and even romantic relationships when they became resource drains rather than resource multipliers. Winfrey's approach to relationships is based on mutual growth and value creation. She doesn't maintain friendships out of obligation or nostalgia. Instead, she invests her time and energy in relationships that help her become better at what she does and contribute to her ability to impact others positively. This principle becomes particularly relevant when we consider the hidden costs of maintaining unproductive relationships. Every hour you spend listening to a friend complain about problems they refuse to solve is an hour not spent on your own development. Every emotional crisis you manage for someone else is emotional energy not available for your own challenges. The waging war principle teaches us to calculate the true cost of our relationships. Jeff Bezos demonstrated this principle when he systematically ended relationships with early Amazon employees who couldn't scale with the company's growth. This wasn't personal vindictiveness, it was strategic resource management. Bezos understood that maintaining relationships with people who were holding the company back would ultimately hurt everyone, including those individuals. By making difficult decisions about personnel and partnerships early, he preserved resources that could be invested in relationships and systems that would drive growth. Consider how this applies to your own life. How many of your current relationships are actually resource drains? How many friends do you have who consistently take more than they give? How much of your mental and emotional energy is being consumed by people who will never contribute to your success? Elon Musk provides another compelling example of this principle in action. Musk is notorious for his demanding expectations of the people around him. He doesn't maintain relationships with individuals who can't keep up with his pace or contribute meaningfully to his various projects. This approach might seem harsh, but it's precisely this kind of resource management that has allowed Musk to revolutionize multiple industries simultaneously. He understands that his time and energy are finite resources that must be allocated strategically. The waging war principle also involves understanding the difference between investment and expense in relationships. An investment relationship is one where your time and energy generate returns in the form of growth, opportunities, or mutual benefit. An expense relationship is one that consistently drains your resources without providing meaningful returns. Steve Jobs exemplified this principle throughout his career at Apple. Jobs was known for being extremely selective about who he worked with and maintained relationships with. He understood that the quality of his relationships directly impacted the quality of his work and his ability to innovate. Jobs didn't waste time on relationships that didn't challenge him or contribute to his creative process. He was willing to end partnerships and friendships that were holding him back, even when those decisions were personally difficult or socially awkward. This strategic approach to relationships extends beyond professional settings. The most successful individuals apply these same principles to their personal lives, understanding that their social circle should support their growth rather than inhibit it. The economics of relationship investment also involves understanding opportunity cost. Every relationship you maintain is a choice not to invest that time and energy elsewhere. When you spend your weekend listening to a friend's repetitive complaints, you're choosing not to spend that time on activities that could advance your goals. Mark Zuckerberg demonstrates this principle in his approach to both business and personal relationships. Zuckerberg is known for being extremely focused on his mission and surrounding himself with people who share that focus. He doesn't maintain relationships that distract from his goals or consume resources without providing returns. This doesn't mean Zuckerberg is incapable of genuine connection or emotion. Rather, it means he's strategic about where he invests his emotional energy. He understands that his ability to impact the world depends on his ability to manage his resources effectively. The waging war principle teaches us that relationships should be evaluated based on their contribution to our mission and growth. This evaluation should be ongoing, not static. Relationships that were valuable at one stage of your development might become liabilities as you grow and your needs change. When you begin to apply this principle to your own life, you'll start making different choices about how you spend your time and energy. You'll become more selective about the relationships you maintain and more intentional about the relationships you build. You'll start seeing a dramatic improvements in your ability to achieve your goals because you'll have more resources available for the activities and relationships that truly matter.
Chapter 3: Attack by Strategy. The Art of Influence Without Confrontation.
Sun Tzu's third principle emphasizes that the highest form of warfare is to attack plans, not armies. The supreme excellence is to subdue the enemy without fighting. In the context of relationships, this principle reveals how truly powerful people influence others without creating conflict or revealing their strategic intentions. Most people approach relationships with either complete transparency or obvious manipulation. They either reveal all their thoughts and feelings, making themselves vulnerable, or they manipulate others in ways that eventually backfire. Sun Tzu teaches us a third path: strategic influence through careful positioning and patient execution. Consider how Richard Branson has built his empire. Branson doesn't dominate through force or obvious manipulation. Instead, he positions himself as the friendly, approachable entrepreneur who just happens to be extremely successful. His public persona is carefully crafted to make others want to work with him, invest in his ventures, and support his initiatives. Branson's approach to relationships is based on creating win-win scenarios where others feel like they're benefiting from the relationship while he achieves his strategic objectives. He doesn't need to fight or argue with people because he's structured the relationships in ways that naturally align with his goals. This principle is particularly relevant in today's world where traditional authority structures have been disrupted. You can't simply command respect or obedience. You must earn influence through strategic positioning and consistent results. Tim Cook, Apple's CEO, demonstrates this principle in his leadership style. Cook doesn't rule through intimidation or obvious power plays. Instead, he influences through careful communication, strategic partnerships, and consistent execution. He allows others to feel important and valued while maintaining control over the strategic direction of the company. Cook's approach to relationships both inside and outside Apple is based on creating environments where others want to support his vision. He doesn't waste energy on confrontation or obvious manipulation. Instead, he focuses on positioning himself and his ideas in ways that naturally attract support. The attack by stratagem principle also involves understanding how to neutralize opposition without creating enemies. When you approach relationships strategically, You'll occasionally encounter people who oppose your goals or try to undermine your progress. The amateur response is to fight these people directly, creating conflict and wasting energy. The strategic response is to neutralize their influence by making them irrelevant to your success. This might involve building alternative relationships, changing the context of the interaction, or simply withdrawing your energy from situations where they can impact you. Warren Buffett again provides an excellent example of this principle in action. When Buffett encounters critics or competitors, he rarely engages in public disputes or obvious confrontations. Instead, he focuses on consistently delivering results and building relationships with people who matter to his success. Buffett's approach to dealing with opposition is to make it irrelevant through superior performance and strategic positioning. He doesn't waste time and energy fighting battles that don't serve his long-term objectives. This principle also applies to how successful people handle social obligations and expectations. Instead of directly rejecting social pressures that don't align with their goals, they strategically position themselves to avoid these pressures naturally. For example, Bill Gates has structured his life and schedule in ways that naturally limit his availability for activities that don't serve his mission. He doesn't have to constantly say no to social invitations or unproductive meetings because his systems and positioning make these requests less likely to occur. The attack by stratagem principle teaches us that the most effective influence is often invisible to those being influenced. When you master this principle, people will want to help you achieve your goals without feeling manipulated or coerced. Sheryl Sandberg demonstrates this principle in her approach to building influence in the technology industry. Sandberg doesn't try to dominate through obvious displays of power. Instead, she positions herself as a thoughtful leader who can help others succeed while advancing her own objectives. Sandberg's relationships are carefully structured to create mutual benefit while ensuring that her strategic goals are met. She's mastered the art of making others feel important and valued while maintaining her own strategic advantages. This approach requires patience and long-term thinking. Instead of trying to win every immediate battle, you focus on positioning yourself to win the war. You invest time in building relationships that will serve your long-term objectives, even if they don't provide immediate benefits. The attack by stratagem principle also involves understanding how to use information strategically. Successful people don't share all their thoughts and plans with everyone. They understand that information is power and that revealing too much can undermine their strategic position. This doesn't mean being dishonest or deceptive. Rather, it means being selective about what you share and with whom. You provide enough information to maintain relationships and build trust without revealing details that could be used against you. When you begin to apply this principle to your own relationships, you'll start to see opportunities for influence that you missed before. You'll become more patient in your approach to building relationships and more strategic in how you position yourself within your social and professional networks. You'll also become more effective at achieving your goals because you'll spend less energy on confrontation and more energy on strategic positioning. People will naturally want to support your success because you've created relationships where helping you also helps them.
Chapter 4. Tactical Dispositions. Positioning for Inevitable Victory.
Sun Tzu's fourth principle focuses on positioning yourself so that defeat becomes impossible while victory becomes inevitable. In warfare, this means choosing your battles carefully and ensuring you have every advantage before engaging. In relationships, this principle reveals how successful people structure their social and professional networks to guarantee their continued success. The concept of tactical dispositions is about creating conditions where your success doesn't depend on luck, other people's goodwill, or external circumstances. It's about building such strong positioning that your goals become achievable regardless of what others do or don't do. Consider how Bill Gates approached building Microsoft. Gates didn't rely on friendship or emotional connections to build his empire. Instead, he systematically positioned himself and his company to control key aspects of the personal computer revolution. He built relationships that gave him strategic advantages while maintaining independence from any single partnership or alliance. Gates understood that depending on others' loyalty or goodwill was a weakness. Instead, he created business relationships where partners had strong incentives to support Microsoft's success regardless of their personal feelings about him or the company. This principle is particularly relevant in today's economy, where traditional job security has largely disappeared. The most successful individuals have learned to position themselves so that their success doesn't depend on any single employer, client, or relationship. Take the example of Gary Vaynerchuk, who built his influence by systematically positioning himself as a thought leader in digital marketing. Vaynerchuk didn't depend on traditional career paths or corporate relationships. Instead, he built a personal brand and network that made him valuable to multiple audiences and opportunities. Vaynerchuk's approach to relationships is based on providing value to others while maintaining his own strategic independence. He doesn't depend on any single relationship or partnership for his success. Instead, he's created a network where multiple people have incentives to support his growth. The tactical dispositions principle also involves understanding how to structure relationships so that you maintain the upper hand without creating resentment. This requires careful attention to the dynamics of power and reciprocity in your interactions. Jeff Bezos demonstrates this principle in how he structured Amazon's relationships with suppliers, employees, and customers. Bezos has created systems where each party has strong incentives to support Amazon's continued growth, while Amazon maintains strategic control over its own destiny. Bezos doesn't depend on loyalty or emotional connections to maintain these relationships. Instead, he's created economic and strategic incentives that make supporting Amazon the logical choice for partners, regardless of their personal feelings. This principle extends to personal relationships as well. The most successful people structure their personal lives so that they're not emotionally dependent on any single relationship or social group. They maintain multiple sources of support and validation, reducing their vulnerability to manipulation or abandonment. Consider how Oprah Winfrey has structured her personal and professional relationships. Winfrey has built a network of relationships that support her various goals and interests while maintaining her own independence and strategic control. Winfrey doesn't depend on any single relationship for her emotional well-being or professional success. Instead, she's created a diverse network where different people contribute to different aspects of her life and mission. The tactical dispositions principle also involves understanding how to use your resources and positioning to create opportunities for others while advancing your own objectives. This isn't about manipulation. It's about creating genuine value while maintaining strategic advantages. Reed Hastings, the founder of Netflix, exemplifies this principle in how he's built relationships within the entertainment industry. Hastings has positioned Netflix as a valuable partner to content creators while maintaining strategic control over the platform and its direction. Hastings doesn't depend on the entertainment industry's traditional power structures or relationship networks. Instead, he's created alternative systems where talented people can succeed by working with Netflix, regardless of their connections within traditional Hollywood networks. This principle requires long-term thinking and patience. Instead of trying to maximize short-term gains from relationships, you focus on building positioning that will serve your long-term objectives. You invest in relationships and systems that will provide sustainable advantages over time. The tactical dispositions principle also involves understanding how to maintain your strategic advantages without making others feel threatened or diminished. This requires careful attention to how you communicate and position your success. Mark Cuban demonstrates this principle in how he's built his public persona and business relationships. Cuban has positioned himself as successful and influential while maintaining relatability and accessibility. People don't feel threatened by his success because he's positioned it as something they could potentially achieve as well. Cuban's approach to relationships is based on creating mutual opportunities while maintaining his own strategic independence. He doesn't depend on others' approval or support for his success, but he creates value for others in ways that naturally align with his objectives. When you begin to apply this principle to your own life, you'll start thinking differently about how you structure your relationships and opportunities. You'll focus on building positioning that makes your success inevitable rather than dependent on external factors. You'll also become more selective about the relationships you build and maintain, focusing on those that contribute to your long-term strategic positioning rather than those that provide only short-term emotional satisfaction. The tactical dispositions principle teaches us that true power comes from positioning, not from force or manipulation. When you master this principle, you'll find that your goals become achievable through systematic effort rather than luck or others' goodwill.
Chapter 5. Energy. The momentum of strategic relationships.
Sun Tzu's fifth principle focuses on the concept of energy in warfare, emphasizing that battles are won through the proper combination of direct and indirect forces, and that timing is crucial for success. In relationships, this principle reveals how successful people create and maintain momentum in their personal and professional networks. The concept of energy in relationships is about understanding how to generate momentum that works in your favor. It's about creating situations where your success builds on itself, where each achievement makes the next one easier, and where your network of relationships becomes a self-reinforcing system. Consider how Elon Musk has built momentum across multiple industries. Musk's success in one venture creates credibility and opportunities in others. His relationships with investors, employees, and customers in the automotive industry help him in aerospace, and vice versa. He's created a network where each success amplifies the others. Musk's approach to relationships is based on creating shared vision and momentum rather than depending on personal loyalty or emotional connections. People work with him because they believe in the potential for extraordinary achievements, not because they necessarily like him personally. This principle is particularly relevant for understanding how successful people leverage their networks. Instead of treating relationships as isolated connections, they understand how to create systems where relationships reinforce each other and generate collective momentum. Take the example of Peter Thiel, who has built one of the most powerful networks in Silicon Valley. Thiel's relationships aren't based on traditional friendship models. Instead, he's created a network of individuals who share similar philosophies and approaches to innovation and business building. Thiel's network generates momentum because success by one member creates opportunities and credibility for others. The relationships are structured around shared objectives and mutual benefit rather than emotional attachment or social obligation. The energy principle also involves understanding how to time your relationship building and networking activities. There are moments when investing in relationships will generate significant returns, and other times when the same effort will be wasted. Warren Buffett demonstrates this principle in his approach to building relationships within the investment community. Buffett doesn't randomly network or maintain relationships for their own sake. Instead, he invests in relationships at strategic moments when those relationships can generate maximum value. Buffett's timing in relationship building is based on understanding market cycles, industry trends, and individual career trajectories. He builds relationships with people when they're positioned to provide maximum value, not when it's socially convenient or emotionally satisfying. This principle extends to understanding how to withdraw energy from relationships that are no longer generating positive momentum. Just as successful people invest strategically in relationships, they also divest from relationships that are becoming energy drains. Jeff Bezos has demonstrated this principle throughout Amazon's growth by systematically ending relationships with partners, suppliers, and employees who were no longer contributing to the company's momentum. These decisions weren't personal, they were strategic resource management. Bezos understands that maintaining relationships that drain energy or create drag on the organization ultimately hurts everyone involved. By making difficult decisions about relationships quickly, he preserves the energy and momentum that drive continued success. The energy principle also involves understanding how to create positive momentum in new relationships. Instead of waiting for relationships to develop naturally, successful people actively create conditions that generate mutual benefit and shared success. Consider how Mark Zuckerberg has built relationships within the technology industry. Zuckerberg doesn't wait for others to approach him or for relationships to develop organically. Instead, he actively creates opportunities for collaboration and mutual benefit that generate positive momentum from the beginning. Zuckerberg's approach to relationships is based on understanding how to create immediate value for others while positioning himself to benefit from their success. This creates positive momentum that makes the relationships naturally self-reinforcing. The energy principle also involves understanding how to maintain momentum in relationships over time. This requires ongoing investment and attention, but the investment should be strategic rather than emotional. Bill Gates demonstrates this principle in how he's maintained relationships throughout his transition from Microsoft to philanthropic work. Gates has successfully maintained valuable relationships while completely changing his focus and objectives. Gates' approach to maintaining relationship momentum is based on continuing to provide value to others while adapting to his own changing goals and priorities. He doesn't maintain relationships through nostalgia or emotional attachment. He maintains them by continuing to create mutual benefit. This principle requires understanding the difference between activity and results in relationships. Many people confuse being busy with being productive in their networking and relationship building. The energy principle teaches us to focus on activities that generate real momentum rather than just creating the appearance of relationship building. Sheryl Sandberg exemplifies this principle in how she's built and maintained influence throughout her career. Sandberg doesn't waste energy on relationships that don't contribute to her ability to create positive change. Instead, she focuses on relationships that amplify her impact and create momentum for her various initiatives. Sandberg's approach to relationships is based on understanding how individual connections can be leveraged to create broader influence and impact. She doesn't treat relationships as isolated connections, but as part of a larger system for creating positive change. When you begin to apply this principle to your own life, you'll start to see your relationships differently. You'll focus on creating momentum rather than just maintaining connections. You'll become more strategic about when and how you invest in relationships, and you'll start building networks that generate compound returns over time. The energy principle teaches us that relationships should be dynamic systems that generate momentum toward our goals rather than static connections that drain our resources. When you master this principle, your network becomes a powerful force multiplier that makes your success inevitable.
Conclusion: the strategic transformation.
If you've made it this far in this analysis, you're already different from most people. Most individuals would have dismissed these ideas as too harsh, too calculating, or too uncomfortable to consider seriously. But you've stayed with me through an exploration of how the most successful people in the world actually think about and manage their relationships. The truth is that everything you've been taught about friendship and relationships has been designed to keep you average. Society promotes the idea that you should maintain relationships based on emotion, loyalty, and social obligation because this system benefits those who are already in power. When you spend your energy maintaining unproductive relationships, you have less energy available for the activities and connections that could actually change your life. The 5 principles from Sun Tzu's The Art of War that we've explored today represent a complete transformation in how you think about human connections. Laying plans teaches you to be strategic about who you allow into your life. Waging war shows you how to manage your relationship resources efficiently. Attack by stratagem reveals how to influence others without creating conflict. Tactical dispositions helps you position yourself for inevitable success. And energy teaches you how to create momentum in your relationships. These aren't just abstract concepts or theoretical frameworks. These are the actual principles that Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and other extraordinarily successful individuals have used to build their empires and maintain their influence. They understand something about human nature and relationship dynamics that most people refuse to acknowledge. The uncomfortable truth is that most people are not strategic assets in your life. Most people will not contribute to your success, will not challenge you to grow, and will not provide the resources or opportunities you need to achieve your goals. Most people will consume your time, drain your energy, and distract you from your mission. This doesn't make them bad people. It makes them irrelevant to your success. And if you want to achieve extraordinary results in your life, you must learn to distinguish between people who can help you reach your goals and people who will hold you back. The transformation begins with accepting responsibility for your own success. Stop waiting for others to believe in you, support you, or provide you with opportunities. Start building relationships that serve your mission and withdrawing energy from relationships that drain your resources. This process is initially uncomfortable because it challenges everything you've been taught about loyalty, friendship, and social obligation. You'll feel guilty about ending relationships that no longer serve you. You'll worry about being perceived as selfish or calculating. You'll question whether you're becoming the kind of person you want to be. But remember that extraordinary success requires extraordinary thinking. The people who achieve remarkable results in their lives don't think like everyone else. They don't maintain relationships like everyone else. They don't allocate their time and energy like everyone else. If you want different results in your life, you must be willing to make different choices. You must be willing to prioritize your mission over social comfort. You must be willing to invest in relationships that challenge you rather than relationships that validate you. The strategic approach to relationships doesn't mean becoming cruel or heartless. It means becoming intentional. It means understanding that your time, energy, and attention are finite resources that must be allocated wisely. It means recognizing that every relationship is an investment decision that will either contribute to your success or detract from it. When you begin to apply these principles consistently, you'll notice several changes in your life. You'll have more time available for the activities that actually matter to your success. You'll have more energy for pursuing your goals because you're not constantly managing other people's problems. You'll start attracting higher quality people into your life because you're no longer accepting mediocrity in your relationships. You'll also discover that you become more valuable to others. When you stop being available to everyone for everything, people start to value your time and attention more highly. When you become selective about who you help and how you help them, your assistance becomes more meaningful and impactful. The transformation isn't immediate, and it isn't easy. Changing your approach to relationships requires consistent effort and constant vigilance. You'll be tempted to fall back into old patterns of maintaining relationships based on guilt, habit, or social pressure. You'll face criticism from people who benefit from your old approach to relationships. But if you stay committed to these principles, you'll eventually reach a point where strategic relationship management becomes natural. You'll automatically evaluate new people you meet based on their potential contribution to your mission. You'll naturally gravitate toward relationships that energize you and away from relationships that drain you. The most successful people in the world understand that relationships are tools for achieving objectives, not ends in themselves. They build and maintain relationships that serve their mission while withdrawing energy from relationships that distract from their goals. If you're still here, that means you're serious about changing your life. Comment strategic and let me know that you're ready to change your approach to relationships. Let me know that you're ready to stop being everyone's friend and start being strategic about who deserves access to your time, energy, and attention. The path to extraordinary success begins with extraordinary thinking. And extraordinary thinking begins with challenging the conventional wisdom about how relationships should work. The choice is yours. Continue maintaining relationships based on emotion and social obligation, or start building relationships based on strategic value and mutual benefit. The principles of Sun Tzu have guided successful leaders for over 2 millennia. They work because they're based on understanding human nature as it actually is, not as we wish it were. When you align your relationship strategy with these timeless principles, you position yourself for the kind of success that most people only dream about. Remember, friendship might be for the weak, but strategic relationships are for the strong. The question is, which category do you want to belong to? The answer to that question will determine everything about your future success and influence. Your transformation starts now. Choose wisely.